What's up, fight fans? This is Roy Coughlan for SA Boxing Talk, and today I'm in Bracknell, England with Mr. Luther Clay. How you doing, Luther?
I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you, man. Thanks so much for having us. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to the new SA fans out there, the new fight fans in South Africa.
Yeah, so my name is Luther Clay. That's my boxing name. My actual name is Lutando Mabile Mtimkulu. I was originally born in Durban, Pinetown, raised in Matatio, Eastern Cape, and then eventually moved to England because my parents wanted to relocate here. And then once I got here, just started boxing, and now here I am today. So yeah.
And so when did you start boxing? How did you get into it, and when did you turn pro?
I started boxing at age 15, relatively quite late. I turned pro when I was 20. I think I was 21 or 20. I think just before I turned 21, but I was basically 21. I started boxing because I would always get into fights at school, out of school, anywhere. I was always fighting. So my dad was like, joking, he was like, "Oh, you should start boxing." And I was like, because he took me to the boxing gym. He said I should start boxing, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll go." And then I went to the boxing gym, and it turns out a couple of my friends from school were there. I think I was about 14, 15. And then when the first time I got there, my friend beat me up, and I was like, "Oh, okay.
Gotta get that revenge.
I'm gonna get you back." So I just obviously, because I liked fighting anyway, so I wasn't a stranger to taking punches or whatever. So from then I just pretty much stuck to it for about 2.5 years. And then I ended up having about 11, 12 amateur wins. I think it was 11 fights, 9 wins, 2 losses. And then I'd always liked it, but for whatever reason I decided to focus more on school. Well, my parents decided to push me towards more school. So I ended up doing college and then going to university. So I took about 2 years off boxing, 2.5 years off boxing, not training and everything. And then once I got to uni, there was a boxing gym next to my university, and I was like, so I started training again. And then obviously once I started training again, you start sparring, and then people start saying, do you wanna fight and stuff like that? And I was like, nah, I'm cool. I still like boxing. I'd watch boxing, but at this point I wasn't a boxer. I was just like a fan and stuff like that. But when I got to the gym one time, there was the manager that I'm with now, Al Siesta. He happened to be there, and with a trainer called Gennady Gordienko. Out of nowhere, I basically started training with them, and they took a real interest in me. And then about 6-7 months later, I had my first professional fight after training with them. So it all just happened very quickly, in terms of me turning professional. But it's been very good, and I've been in very good hands, and everything's been good.
Awesome. And so you've had 10 fights now.
Yeah.
You've got 9 wins, 1 loss. Which is interesting is that you've fought only half of your career in the UK and the other half outside of the UK. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think the real reason is why I fought half my fights outside of the UK is because when I had signed with my manager, he was a European promoter, so he promoted fights in Europe, and he had some sort of involvement in boxing in the UK, but all his clout was basically, I think, in Europe. So he could get me fights, but I had to fight in Europe. But at the time, I didn't really think about it. The time. He'd be like, "You were fighting." He'd be like, "You're fighting in January in Latvia." I was like, "Okay, cool." But I think that's just how I am naturally. So I never really paid attention to where I was fighting. I just knew that I had a fight, and you had to train, and you had to go. So
it doesn't faze you going into someone else's backyard and taking them on?
No, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm naive, I think. But I think, it doesn't. I don't really think about it. I just think about the date. And I think about training. I think about who I've got to fight. I don't really tend to think of anything else.
Alright, well, speaking of fights, you've got one coming up in like 3 weeks' time. So how's the prep going for that?
Preparation's going great, you know. Training's going well, sparring's going well, fitness is going well. I'm nice and rested because I've only been. I'll only be a short camp, 6 weeks, because I was on holiday in South Africa for 4 weeks from July the 8th to basically August the 8th. So it's not a long training camp. I'm still sharp from my last fight. This will be my 4th fight of the year. So I'm feeling, you know, you're used to the ring because you've been in it so much now. So feeling confident, feeling strong, feeling sharp, and yeah, it's going to be a good fight.
And your opponent has pretty solid record. You're aware of his fights, and do you feel like he's the toughest person that you've faced to date?
I'm aware of his fights. There's not really much footage. There's like one fight that I've seen. So in terms of like, obviously that one fight that is an 8-rounder. So I've got a good sense of what kind of fighter he is. But it's kind of different when you can only see one fight and not like several, because then you know, as a fighter, you know that this fight you fight this way, this fight you fight this way, so it changes. But I have a good understanding of what his style and his speed, his power, his boxing style. So I don't know if he's the hardest, because that one fight I did lose was in Russia against a fighter who had 12 fights. He had 10 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, and that was my 6th fight. So even that fight wasn't necessarily hard. It's just a very awkward boxer who was on the back foot moving a lot.
Yeah.
So.
But you took that one on short notice.
Yeah, 2 weeks notice. I think we couldn't get an opponent. I was training in Russia for like 2 months. We had trouble getting opponents, and I was like, "Look, I can get you this guy," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Because I watched him and I didn't think much of him, but I knew it'd be tricky. But I knew that I had to get on his ass basically.
Sure.
And I didn't do that till the 3rd round. So the first 2 rounds a lot, and then the later rounds are very even. The scorecards ended up being one judge had me winning by 1 round, one judge had him, and the other 2 judges had him winning by 1 round. So the scorecards are very close. So that fight was a very good landed fight, and then obviously this fight, but I don't know. I mean, I would say on paper probably maybe the hardest fight, maybe. But I mean, I think in terms of experience, I feel like I'm actually the more experienced fighter because I've fought better people. As I've kept up, like he's had a good amount of wins, but they've all been relatively opponents that he should beat. Whereas I've kept going up and up and up. Even when I took that loss, I didn't like go back down. I just kept going. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think I am the more experienced fighter. But we're gonna see. It should be my hardest fight today, I suppose. Yeah.
And in terms of experience, you fought on one of the biggest cards of this year so far, the George Groves, Chris Eubank undercard. So how was that? That must have been an incredible experience.
Yeah, that was a good experience. The thing about that fight is, the experience, just being in the build up and seeing the other fighters, seeing all these famous people. Funny thing is about that fight, after the press conference, walking out, going to go get some food. Then this big man, giant big man like a bear, I see him, he opens a door for me, and I didn't pay much attention. I was like, "Oh, thank you," and I walked past. And then after I'd walked the door, I was like, "Wasn't that John Fury?" And I looked back and it was John Fury, but I didn't I was just so focused on the fight. I was like, I could have said hello or something, but I was just like, I just don't know, because I was so concentrated. But yeah, I saw a lot of celebrities there. You had, I think Nigel Benn was there. Thingy's dad was there. What's his name? Chris Eubank's dad. Yeah, Chris Eubank Senior was there. There's just a lot of fighters around, obviously, because it was a big event. But the actual press conference, it was funny because at the press conference, when you sit down at the table, everyone has their names, on their little tags, and they have a seat for them. I didn't have a name tag. I didn't have a seat. They had to get a seat from behind the cameras and then I had to sit on the edge of the table, and they had to it's like I wasn't meant to be there.
Edge of the table, but still at the table.
Yeah, exactly. But I wasn't meant to be there, so I didn't feel any hostileness, but I was just like, yeah. So I just, I really felt like the opponent going into it. even the interviewers, they were interviewing him, and I remember sitting down, and I could hear them interviewing me, and they were saying, "We're gonna kill him," and I was just like, "Alright, cool." And
you got the W.
Then they pointed over laughing at me, and I was just like, in my head I was thinking, I'm gonna fuck you up. But the whole build up was nice, you know. Everything was nice. Sunderland boxing brothers, they were very nice, you know. Had a nice chat with them and everything. So yeah, it was a good experience. But with me, in terms of like, I'm very laid back and cool, so just naturally, so I don't really think about much. Like, I'm very good at just censoring everything out and just focusing on what I have to focus on. So the fact that I was in Manchester on his promoter's card in his town and everything, I didn't really think about it. So that helps me out in my fights, in terms of fighting away and just fights in general. Yeah.
And as a South African, you following the scene back home? You know, other welterweights specifically?
I follow, like, I won't follow my, haven't really been following my weight, really. I've been following a couple boxers I know, a couple boxers that I know personally. I watch Patrick Mukala, a very good super middleweight. I follow Dolani Makadeli, I follow him. I follow like Clement Kamanga, obviously I follow Paul Kamanga, his brother. I follow a couple other fighters, like I was recently following the Lusanda fight, Comanisi fight. So I'll follow like a couple fighters, but I won't be following the scene specifically, because I'm not there. I'm not fighting there. Even though I'm from there, I'm not fighting there. I'm fighting here. So I normally look at the British scene, and then I just follow select fighters that I know personally back home.
And you know, speaking of home and the fights at home, I mean, do you ever see yourself fighting back at home anytime soon?
Yeah. I wanted to fight home this year, but it just didn't happen earlier this year. I wanted to fight home like July this year, but it just didn't happen. But I've talked to my manager, and I've told him I've got interest in fighting back home, and he's shown interest in that as well, because obviously I'm a British fighter, but at the same time I'm also South African, so I think it would be in my interest to build myself on both ends. So I'm thinking middle of next year, I think I want to go fight at home, and maybe after this fight, that's when I should start looking at opponents and looking at the scene back there and seeing who I could possibly fight. And if I do fight, I would like to be like on a televised card, you know what I mean? Because there's no point in me going home, leaving England, the boxing scene's here, and then going back home and fighting in a small hall show again. So if I go fight there, I think I would have to really fight a good opponent, good ranked opponent, and I'd have to go, and it'd have to be on televised, and things like purse and stuff, man, not so much, but I think for me the exposure is more important than anything, you know.
So after, you know, this, I mean, you've got your fight in the next 3 weeks. I mean, no matter what, we'll be supporting you wherever you fight, whether it be in Riga, whether it be in London, whether it be in South Africa. Do you have, you know, lastly, do you have any shout outs to give? Yeah,
I've got a few shout outs. I'd like to get a shout out to, first of all, my promotion and management, Siesta Boxing Promotions. I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsors. This is where it gets difficult, you know. You just got to try. Remember, you know what? I ain't even gonna play it. I'm just gonna get them up. You know, when you got sponsors, you got to make sure you get them up.
Of course.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out Owl's Family Butchers for always looking after me, making sure I'm eating right and everything. Admiral Cunningham Pub. Yeah, they just support me all the time. You know what I mean? They don't give me free drinks or nothing. So
Okay.
Bewley Homes. Bewley Homes always supports me. And you got my newest sponsor, Fight and Fit in Bristol. So they've just been supplying me with like you know, basically like training gear, boots and fight kit and everything, which helps out a lot. And Plum World, once again they help me financially and stuff like that. And I've got my strength and conditioning coach, Venison Fitness, always keeping me in shape and pushing me. So yeah, those are my sponsors I'd like to shout out to. And Body Zone Fitness as well, for letting me, you know, train at the gym and always giving me advice on diet and things like that. So yeah, those are a few shout outs I'd like to make. Yeah.
Nice one, Luther. Well, thanks so much for talking to us.
Yeah.
You've been watching Luther Clay on SA Boxing Talk.
Thank you.